Good morning. We're here to discuss customer experience. Customer experience is king. Businesses must provide flexible digital solutions to stay competitive. I am Ben Laluc. I have worked for, and with enterprise and global merchants for about 9 years, and I lead digital payments and commerce services products at CyberSource. Good morning, all. As this keynote is only 15 minutes, I will be trying to load the full time as much as I can. I would gladly help with questions that follow up from this session. So please share your questions, and as I will not be able to help them during the keynote. Digital transformation has been a key focus area for merchants for several years. It's only understood as a key ingredient of competitiveness by business. Yes, COVID has had an impact, acceleration impact. Global digital commerce transactions volume has been pushed above 4 trillion in 2020, a 23% increase year over year, according to 451 research. But again, COVID was an acceleration of a trend that was already there. During this time, we've seen unprecedented customer shifts, often forced by physical store closures, admittedly, from in-store payments to online and digital payments. As people have had to adapt, they've grown some comfort quickly with things they were not used to doing before. We've seen older generations buying a lot more online and a lot of new online buyers during that phase. So customer behavior is changing in regard to how they choose to pay in both store and online. Number one on the list of those changes, obviously the acceleration on digital wallet adoption, getting a lot more broadly available checkout, and setting the tone on how fast payment should happen. According to Juniper, total spend through digital wallet forecasted above 10 trillion in 2025. That's up from 5.5 in 2020. Nearly 2/3 of connected customers globally use a digital wallet, to buy a product in physical or online last year, based on Euromonitor's data. So digital wallet is number one. Now, contactless is also a dimension. While more recent thing in the US, various markets globally have had fast increasing penetration of contactless payments for several years now. During the pandemic, research was showing that, it was likely that contactless would keep going beyond that on that trend. Now that several markets are quite farther along on the so-called reopening, we're seeing contactless adoption and penetration trends persisting, indeed, as anticipated. From contactless, let me move to more of a contact-free experience. Channels such as buy online, pick up in store now often assorted with the famous curbside pickup, and mobile order ahead are growing in popularity. US click and collect sales more than double in 2020 and are forecasted to sustain double-digit rate growth over the next 4 years from eMarketer's perspective. Order ahead apps make 20%, well, it was only like 6% back in 2019 from the NPD Group report on digital evolution and food service industry. These data in their back to business study also say that more than 85% of surveyed customers expect at this moment digital options when they shop in person. So a very critical factor to take into consideration. Now, beyond digital wallets, we also see adoption of new payments. Buy online, buy now, and pay later options are definitely a good illustration of something that's grown in popularity with consumers. Growth by tenfold between 2019 and 2020. It will likely surpass 100 billion volume mark by 2024 from what Mercado's data is showing. So let me add a fifth item here, something maybe a bit more controversial of an opinion maybe. Research showed that pandemic has been affected on consumer selection around why, and protection against fraud, motivation around security and financial data have grown a lot. Now, those dimensions have ranked very high as top of mind in surveys for longer than I've been in digital payments, frankly. In my opinion, when you ask people, that's always top of mind when they think about it. Now, day-to-day consumer action, our recommendation is definitely to focus on convenience and speed, relying on services that do bring that security, because consumers definitely expect it, assume it, and often taken for granted, honestly, by younger demographics, and often a point of concern also for some of the older generations. So that's a critical dimension that should be top of mind. But again, that experience, the convenience, the speed is paramount. The customer experience is what should be driving that digital strategy, because customers are expecting those simple, seamless experiences, offering checkout option the favor, but businesses unable to adapt will typically see it reflect in their top and bottom line. So that being said, adapting is not easy. It requires modern, flexible payment technology, strategies to cope with the complexity of increased volume of payments, new consumer channels and experiences, more payment methods. The typical complexity of cobbled together patchwork and siloed payment systems, kind of inherited on how they were built in the past in many businesses, is just not going to cut it. So this is so complex to manage that digital acceleration is going to require serious action to control and balance risk, especially as they relate to security and fraud. Critical connection between the business internal systems and how to enable the creation of those digital first customer experiences. Let's talk for a minute about the complexities of managing multiple payment methods. Offering the payment method that customers prefer is complex. It requires local knowledge of a global scale. For instance, payment methods are preferred, in certain markets. Japan versus Australia versus Netherlands gets obviously different answers, and those are just very limited examples. But in most markets, simply throwing a bunch of payment options at checkout is also not a recipe either. Too many payment options can confuse your customers. Some payment options provide the same consumer benefits and may not be worth the extra investment versus what's already available on checkout. On the other hand, additional capabilities, buy now, pay later, can be an option if nothing comparable is available. So that's a huge knowledge needed to understand the right mix of payment types for where a business operates, and its industry and target demographics, plays a part. So let's keep in mind that, and I'll use 451 research data again, published in February, but 46% of recently surveyed customers say if their preferred payment isn't accepted at checkout, they're significantly less likely to shop with that merchant in the future. That is lifetime value of the customer impact here. And identifying the right mix of payments really is just a start. Managing different formats and reconciliation reports places more burden on operations teams, for instance. All of this can divert resources away from core business functions, from other priorities, and technology projects that merchants need for their overall digital transformation, not just on the payment side. So businesses must consider the common cost of doing business when assessing each new payment method for the opportunity they've identified. The cost of acceptance of what business tends to focus on. Like that's typically number one, but I'd argue it's not where the issue is, as it can be easily clarified. Now, integrating the new payment option, not only the payment itself, but all the monitoring and reconciliation flows that come with it, plus ongoing management costs, mandate compliance developments, queue in managing upgrades from the provider, but also the opportunity cost. And typically, I see very different, stance on businesses there, with businesses that tend to want like all of the payment options they want and willing to sacrifice and prioritize on that a lot. And on the other hand, businesses are very conservative and probably don't do themselves good justice in order to satisfy their customer needs, and will tend to favor other digital initiatives than adding the right payment options. So that complexity and burden grows as more payments are needed. Now, the businesses, adding payment options often involves different security dimensions. New ways to pay, and that security risk is definitely not just a dimension to be concerned about, but something to invest. It's not an expense. It's really something that gives you a yield when it comes to protecting your business, your brand, and your customer experience. The headline also from the last 10 years tell us that it's not, while the perception is skewed towards a digital is more risky, we've all seen that that's not the case, and data breaches and hacks happen in businesses systems. They're not strictly exclusive or specific to online, and shopping and experiences. So business can leverage its third-party payment provider, take care of the capture, take care of the transmission, using tokenization solutions, using hosted payment pays. This places reliance on a certified, trusted provider that already has the technology, the infrastructure, and the capabilities and payment expertise to place, in place to keep all of that secure. Now, not all of those are created and maintained equal. The challenge typically is, are those security capabilities as flexible as you need to ensure the right customer experience for your business across geographies or across channels? Compatible natively with the fraud screening solutions that you're using, and giving it visibility to the customer across channels that you're looking for. So at a broader level, does that technology also enable you to take advantage of some of the industry progress? New technology like EMV network tokens, for instance, for card payment processing, where available, is not just helping security. From what we're starting to observe, early adopters like subscription, recurring billing businesses see a reduction in payment declines. So there is a payment optimization opportunity for card acceptance and customer experience overall. Now, that's not all about what happens during checkout and payment in real time. Not disrupting that is important, but it's also about what happens post checkout equally. What are the ramifications of those new payment options and their specific flows on follow-on transactions for split shipments for retailers, for instance, any service flow that that leads to a refund, for example. So last one on security. I'm not covering here, the customer experience ramifications to data breaches. It's far-reaching into the business. Obviously, lawsuits, fines, penalties, all of that are typically part of the equation, but more importantly, typically generates damage to the brand and reputation and eroding customer loyalty that's taken years to build and takes typically years to rebuild. So we can't discuss customer experience expectations without covering the need of challenges, recognizing customers across channels. And successful forward-looking brands do that pretty well, but it is extremely difficult as well. So to build loyalty and create better payment experience, you have to see creating this kind of complete 360 customer view. So to that end, solutions like tokenization that supports multiple channel, secures customer sensitive information, not just the card data, is your friend. That evolves with technology. For instance, the EMV network tokenization, does your solution support it? How do you take advantage of those new capabilities? And how do you get empowered to understand customer activity across channels a lot better? Now let's talk about fraud a little bit. The businesses can't provide this level of customer experience without advanced fraud detection. Bad experiences as a cost, as much a cost of fraud if enabled or not detected. Cost of lifetime value of the customer if it's not. If it's actually overzealous, if it's rejecting good orders. Data estimates, 451 research data again, calls it at about 80 billion a year. It's always staggering numbers, disregarding the source, when potential sales lost due to customers abandoning an online shopping cart because of difficulties completing the purchase. So in this case, what typically helps? A solution that monitors actively and passively on the different strategy, the different channels, the different experiences you provide. That is one element. But planning discreetly for new customer experiences implemented, buy online, pick up in store, and maybe accommodation specific, from a fraud strategy perspective to the curbside pickup, for instance, just to take one of the recent developments of the last couple of years, is essential. How does fraud screening take into consideration those elements and the tools, the solution? Does it detect automatically? Does it enable you to react real time and learn from what happens in genuine behaviors and pick up on new fraud vectors that happen very, very quickly? Last, just a couple thoughts here. Two underinvested areas that can help shape the customer experience. One being data focused is essential. Agreeing internally within the business on what measurements of customer experience is critical. It sounds basic, but it's critical past and we do see a wide variety of approaches there, but sometimes not quite a strong enough discipline to actually measure and improve. The last comment is really about communication and education, as the implementation of new technology can create, staff experience challenges, not just consumers. So studies show the vast majority of small businesses face concerns about potential fraud from the new technology, where it brings much higher security, right? So the perception and training through staff members, early and repeated education of the store staff, call centers, other channels, and making sure that those changes and improvements you're making to the checkout experience is happening as a key ingredient for their security, for their benefit, for their convenience. And it's really on each business to make sure that it's communicated effectively. And I think your staff is an ally in that respect. So I'll pause there. This is a full loaded 15 minutes. Again, glad to follow up on questions. I hope this was helpful. Looking forward to interactions. My email is belaluc@cybersource.com. Talk to you soon.